Dreading going to work tomorrow? At least you don't have to watch Alien 3. Hey, welcome to another edition of the Sunday Scaries. I'm your host, Mike, and today we're going to be talking about Alien 3. And this is by far the most disappointing film in the whole franchise. After coming off two fantastic films, best of all time type films in Alien and Aliens, you get this huge letdown in Alien 3. And you know, the frustrating thing is there is some potential in this film, but it's executed so poorly and they choose to do some things that are a little redundant. I would say also ill-advised as far as honoring the fans and what they loved about the first two films. So this is just a giant mess, unfortunately, of a film. The film picks up right after the events of Aliens. Ripley and the survivors of the film are going through space. They're trying to get home. They're asleep, and somehow an alien egg is still on the ship, and it gets loose while they're asleep and crashes the ship. The ship crashes on a planet where it's surrounded by ex-convicts. There's 20 plus or so of them, and they're all ex-murderers and rapists, and Ripley is the only survivor. Now I'm gonna get into some spoilers. As the film goes on, she starts developing some relationships with these ex-convicts, a lot of which are not happy to have a woman on the planet since they're all men, and she's tempting a lot of them to fall back into their rapist ways, and she befriends a few. Anyone interesting that she starts to befriend dies pretty quickly, other than maybe one person, and honestly I don't think he's all that interesting. And then the film goes on and the alien somehow gets on a dog, and then it turns out that this new type of alien comes out, and it's this like thinner, faster alien than from the first film, and it starts killing people, and they don't believe Ripley at first, and it gets in this whole pattern of turning the planet kind of to the spaceship. The CGI is very bad in this film, I have to warn you. It's just more of the same, and it's honestly a big scale back from Aliens, where you had tons of these monsters going around. You had the Queen, you had all these colonists that you cared about, all these Marines you cared about, and you're just kind of on this planet doing the same thing with less good CGI, less good execution, and it just feels boring and redundant. And then, spoiler towards the end of the film. The only thing I do like about this is towards the end, they figure out how to kill the alien, and then it turns out that Ripley actually somehow has a queen alien inside her chest that didn't hatch for a few days. And the Weyland Corporation again is betraying Ripley, trying to get the alien out of her body and get it back to their weapons project. Comes down trying to convince her to let them take it out of her and they'll save her life, which who knows if they would. They might just be trying to tie up loose ends anyways and murder her, but she chooses to throw herself in a pit of lava and kills herself and the alien in this very heroic death. It's pretty much the only good thing in this whole film. I do think that was a good way to let Ripley go out. And Sigourney Weaver does an excellent job in trying to execute that part of the role. And I've seen her in interviews, and she even said she wanted that to be Ripley's end. She thought it was a good ending for the character. Of course, we'll get into it in later films, but this is not the last you'll see of Ripley, or something like Ripley, I should say. Anyways, it's just this big mess, and Alien 3 is definitely one of the more divisive films in the franchise. Though I will say it has a few defenders who have gone on to think it's some kind of genius work. So I'm just not one of those people that can get into this as a good film. I've watched it 4 times now, and I'm somebody that I'm a pretty easy critic, I feel like. I usually, even in a bad movie, can be entertained and find some kind of good in the film, and this is just one I cannot do it other than a little bit at the end. But my main issues with the film are they kill off all the great characters from the second movie off screen, and I'm not against characters being killed because, you know, it's a horror franchise and people die, but at least give characters that gave us such a great performance in the second movie an honorable death. The second thing is the storylines. Again, any interesting characters in this film just get killed off so quick, and their stories don't get developed, and you don't end up really caring that they died. And I think there's some potential in some of those characters, but we're not given enough time with them to really develop that story with them and Ripley. And then my third main issue with this film is there's just nothing new in it. They redid the first film pretty much, but just on a scary ex-convict planet, which now has this like new religion. And I guess it's semi-interesting, but not really that much. At least if it was going to be interesting, it's not executed well. But yeah, nothing's new brought to this film. And as a result, it's just a very boring movie. And that's the worst thing you can do in a horror film, is make it boring and let it drag on and on and on. And that's what this film feels like. It feels like a 3-hour movie. And I know it's not, it's closer to 2, but it feels like a 3-hour movie. And to be quite honest, I feel like the Titanic goes by way quicker. So the main thing with this film as far as themes go that they're going for is, again, we have big corporate and government corruption. They just want the alien. They don't care about the people, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to cover up their agenda. That's what they're going for as far as scares goes. It also goes back to, again, the haunted house in space. This time, though, the haunted house is on some alien planet that we have now colonized. And, it makes the whole environment creepy, and the alien is getting all through the facilities. You never know where it is at any given time. Again, not executed that well. The premise of turning the whole facility into a big haunted house by using this one alien does work fairly well, at least in principle and conceptually. And then the last theme that this film still somewhat has is this feeling of being trapped. This planet is very isolated. Again, there's only like 25 people on the whole planet, and it depends on a supply shipment that takes months at a time for new supplies to come. Otherwise, the people wouldn't survive on the planet. So they really are trapped until someone comes to help them. There's no ships to get off the planet. Ripley's ship was completely destroyed. And then on top of that, because all her friends died in the beginning of the movie, she doesn't even have people to lean on that she can trust, and there's all these people on the planet that are thinking about raping her. So in that regard, there's some scariness, I guess, but again, not executed well, done very creepily, and as you can tell, I just do not like this film. All right, so let's get in the rankings, and you can kind of tell where this is gonna go, but so my overall ranking for this film is a 0.5 out of 5. Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 0.5 just because, again, I do think the ending, that would have been a good way for Ripley to go out. And I also defer to Sigourney Weaver on this, given that she's the one that really has made Ripley the character we all love, saying that she would have liked Ripley to end her journey in this universe right then and there. But I do got to give it credit on that. But outside of that, I don't think there's much in here. I don't think there's much new. And while I think there's some other films in this franchise that are deeply flawed as well, I think those films at least try to do some new things, give us some new interesting characters, and give us some different ideas with the xenomorphs that we haven't seen already. And this one really just, it's the in-between, doesn't do much for the series kind of movie. Now, as far as the fun meter goes, I'm be honest, I give it a 0 out of 5. Again, I have tried with this film. I've watched it 4 times, which is probably 3 more times than most people would give to a movie that they really didn't like. I don't know. Maybe someday I'll come around to this film. Hopefully, though, this is gonna be the last time I ever watch this. The only reason I watched it is to review for you guys out there. So yeah, I think this is my last go around with Alien 3. Thanks again for tuning into this week's edition of the Sunday Scaries. I really appreciate all the support. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Follow if you haven't, ding that little bell to get notifications. And please, if you do like this movie or don't completely just hate it like I do, please leave a comment in the section down below. I'd love to see your thoughts and opinions, and you never know, maybe you will sway me to watch it for a 5th time and see something different. I doubt it, but I want to know your opinions and thoughts. Again, though, thank you for the support. I will be bringing you another episode coming in shortly, and be on the lookout for my review of Alien Resurrection. Again, though, thanks for tuning in, and all I know is at least I do not have to watch Alien 3 tomorrow.